Hi everybody, I'm back for another video. For this video, as I had mentioned in the last one, I'm going to be building a small bench. And this bench is going to be for my pure enjoyment. And it's going to fill a space that I've been wanting to fill for a very, very long time. As we get into the video, I'm going to be showing you that space, and then I will show you the process on how I'm building this bench. We'll walk you through it. I will also include a link in the description of the plans that I found online to show you exactly what the bench is that I'm going to be building, and hopefully you guys are feeling, experimental enough that you're going to maybe want to give it a try for yourself. What I love about this certain bench is that it's such a simple plan that adjustments can be made depending on your space. If you want a really, really long bench, you can just make some adjustments. If you want a shorter bench, you just make the adjustments. I actually made mine shorter, so you'll see that as we move along. Now, if you notice, we're in a different perspective here in my shed. I'm usually sitting across the table. I thought I'd show you the other side today. So over here, I've got this corner shelf, which originally was in my kitchen, and I did a remodel on it and no longer could use it, so I threw it up in the attic because I knew I would use it for a later date, and I'm glad I did. Over here on this side, we have my potting sink, and it's a stainless steel basin sink that I originally bought when I moved into my house. And it's great, it's huge. And I can put my soil in here when I'm potting up plants or if I'm, sowing seeds and stuff like that. So it does really, really well. I'm very pleased with it, and I'm so glad that I held on to it because it really makes quite an impact in here. I also created the skirt to go with it, which was an easy project. My mother found me the material. She found it super cheap. I know where I get it. Yep, thanks, Mom. So above that, we've got this apothecary, and this is eventually going to be where I store my seeds. At the moment, it's full of junk. But this was my great-grandfather's. And from there, it was handed down to my grandfather, and then it was handed down to me. So I love it. It's such a wonderful focal point, and it's got a great story. That's what it's all about, guys. Sometimes buying new is not necessarily the best thing. So, just my opinion. Anyhow, so yeah, we're going to head into the garage in a little bit, and we're going to create this bench. I first want to say that I apologize for my lack of camera skills on my herbs, and more herbs, herbs, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, I didn't think it was all that bad when I was filming it, and then I got it onto YouTube. Probably should have reviewed it before I did that, but it was a lot closer than I had intended to be. Some of the shots did not even come through, and then the movement, ooh boy, that was pretty bad. I'm really sorry about that. I promise it's not going to happen again. I'm doing everything that I could possibly do to not let that happen again. So for this video, you're not going to need to pop a Dramamine. You're not going to need a bucket next to you. There's going to be a lot of still shots. I'm going to do just the slightest bit of movements. I'm learning. This is a whole new process for me. So, and I've had a lot of wonderful help from some of my fellow YouTubers who have given me really great and insightful suggestions. So to those people, I'm really, really thankful. Appreciate it. And I'm sure all of you will appreciate it moving forward. So that's it from the shed. We're going to head now over to the patio, and I'm going to show you the space in which this lovely bench is going to go. So here is where I'm going to put the bench. This is the back walkway of my house. So if you were to take this path over this way, this would exit out to the driveway and then to the front of the house. So this cobblestone path leads to my back door, and this window goes into my kitchen. So I'm looking at this space just below the kitchen window for this bench. Perfect little area. Too small for a regular sized bench, though. I've tried it. Either the backs are too tall and they hit the ledge, or they're too long and I can't open the door. So why this place, you might ask? The eave that comes over this is quite substantial. It literally covers the whole walkway, which is nice. I live in a ranch style home, So the roof line is pretty low, and it hangs over quite a distance, and it's great. This whole area stays really nice and dry. So I want to put just a little area here where I can sit and drink my tea if it's raining, it's outside, or read a book or enjoy all the flowers that I have planted. Most of them, by the way, are scented, so there's that extra level of enticement that I got going on here. So that is where I'm going to put the bench, and you can see over here I have this little shelf area. This was a castaway from one of my friends. His parents were going to throw it away, and he reached out to me because he knows me so well and asked me if I wanted it. And I said, absolutely, I'll find a place for it. And so there we go. I painted it gray, and now it houses some impatiens and some pelargoniums, or busy Lizzies, I think my UK friends call them, which I think is adorable. So why am I showing you this? This gray that I've painted this shelf is going to be the same gray that I paint the bench. Okay, and I can't remember exactly what the name is, but I will show you that when I finish constructing the bench and I begin the paint process. So moving right along, friends, we're going to go now into my garage and begin the project. All right, we're going in the garage. All right, these are the supplies that are required to make this bench, and you can see there's not a lot here. Isn't that wonderful? Nice and easy. There's 2 lengths of wood, a jar of paint, some deck screws, and a paintbrush. That's it. Okay, so the plan calls for 2 by 12. That's what this large one is. Okay, and that's an 8-foot length. A 2 by 4, same length. And then it calls for deck screws, and these are 3.5-inch deck screws, and the plan calls for 10. I have more if I need them. I might use more just to make sure that the bench is sturdy enough. It's a game time decision. Paintbrush, and then I didn't even bother buying a whole jar of paint. They have these wonderful paint sample containers, so I just bought, this was like $3, okay? And it's a satin paint, and it's called Ocean Storm. That's the color gray that I used on the shelf. So that's it. So with that, I'm going to be using obviously a pencil and a T-square and a tape measure and a skill saw. I've got a skill saw down there. Okay, so that's it for the supplies. I apologize that my garage is an absolute disaster, but it's a garage, you store things in it. That's what you do. In fact, that's what's stored in here. And if you've been to my Facebook page, The Lake Effect Gardener, you'll see all about my precious little clementine. So let's get into it. Here we go. Just to give you an idea, this is the original plan from the website. A 5-foot plank on top, a 4'1" cross brace, and then 4-inch legs. I had to change that though because I wanted it smaller, so instead I created 36-inch plank on top, 25-inch cross beams, and 3-inch legs. So that's what I'm going to be working with. All right, friends, here we go. So we're going to start building this. What I want to make really, really clear from the outset, if you've never done a building project, please follow this rule of thumb. It's a very old adage. Measure twice, cut once, okay? Because you can't take a cut back. Once it's done, it's done. So you saw in my previous little section that I had about the original dimensions of this bench, plus then I added the modifications. And I just ended up, just because I'm that type of person, I'm a little OCD about things, I just double checked the measurements of my raw materials here and come to find out that the large plank that's for the legs and for the top of the bench did not come out as 10 inches. They came out as 9¼ inch. So I had to adjust for that, which is fine, no big deal. A bench is a bench, So I lost a little bit, not a big deal. You can be flexible. So you don't have to be really good at math to do it. You just work within the dimensions that you have and then subtract. Make sure that you're even with all of your counts. So instead of having the 4-inch mini legs, I just moved them down an inch to 3" and I made the modifications from there. We'll get into that. So I've got my tape measure, I have got my T-square, and this is a brilliant piece of kit. And I've got my first plank here. And this is, I'm going to measure from this end moving towards this end because there's a slight little, and I think this is why it was on discount, has a split at the end. I don't care, I'm not gonna be using the whole thing, so that's fine. It actually gives me a little bit of room to work with. So, our first measurement is going to be 36 inches. That's going to be for the top plank of the bench. And what I like to do is, I like to take two measurements. This is the measure twice kind of part of it. So I will start on one end, one side, and I will measure what I need. All right, so I said, let's see, what did I say? 36 inches, 36 inches. So I'm gonna find my 36 inches. Okay, here it is. And I'm going to put just a little notch above and a little notch below, okay? I've got two little notches here down at 36 inches. Now I'm going to do the exact same measurement, but this time I'm going to go to the top of the board, okay? Same thing, find my 36 inches, I'm going to do a little bit above, a little bit below. That will give you 4 really decent markings, okay? It really helps to cut down on making sure that the line's is not going to be all wonky and strange. So I'm going to take my T-square, I'm going to line it up with those 4 notches. Okay, take my pencil, and mark it clearly. So now I have a 36-inch length of board. Okay, so that's the first measurement I'm going to take. The second measurement I'm going to take is going to be the 25-inch beam that goes underneath it. You try to do as much measurement as you can first, but what I wouldn't suggest doing is measuring everything out. So I've got the 36 inches here. I wouldn't measure from this drawn line to do your legs, okay? Make the cut first. The cut may not be perfect. So if you don't make the cut perfect, then you have a chance of one side being lopsided or crooked or something like that. So make the markings that you can, make your measurements as you can, then cut, and then measure again. So here's the 2x4. This is the brace that goes along the bottom. And we said that is going to be 25 inches. Now remember, I'm working for my specific size. I downsized mine, so that would work for me. All right, I'm finding 25 inches on my tape measure. I'm taking a little mark, putting it above the 25, putting it below the 25, moving it down to the bottom. Same thing, above the 25, below the 25. Now I have 4 little notches that I made with my pencil. I'm going to take my T-square. All right. So I have 2 major components done. Now I'm going to make my first cuts. And it's really important, and I have to admit, I'm probably only doing this on YouTube. I know I get scolded a lot by several people who watch me do stuff, but I usually don't wear protective gear. I don't know. I've never done it before, and knock on wood, I've never been injured. But for the sake of the YouTube video and keeping everything above board, I'm going to be putting on protective eye gear. This is my hipster protective eye gear. Very fashionable, right? Okay, so I'm gonna make my first cut. I've got my skill saw, or it's called the circular saw. I just call it by the name brand, as we Americans do. All right, and I'm just going to slowly go and cut the large plank first. There we go. This is the seat to our bench. All right, I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to set this aside. We're going to save those for the legs. Moving on to the next piece. Okay, hope you can see this. 25 inches. Here's the line. Back a little bit. Okay, gonna make my cut. Okay, now this is it for the 2x4. I'm not using this piece anymore, so I'm going to store this with the rest of my random lumber, and I will be able to go back to that someday if I have another building project. So here is the brace. So here's the base, and here's the brace. Okay, you can see where the legs are going to go on either side of the 2x4. All right. Moving right along. The next thing that we're going to measure are the legs. Okay. The legs that were on the original website calls for 1 foot 6 inches. So that's 28, no. 1 foot is 12, plus 6 is 18 inches. So 18 inches for each of the legs. So I'm going to go through the same process that I did with the top of the bench. Okay, we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to find our 18-inch mark, notch above, notch below, go to the top, notch above, notch below, get my T-square. Whoops. Make my marking. This poor old tape measure, this was my grandfather's, and it doesn't retract anymore on its own. It's almost like you have to guide it, the poor thing. So, now we're going to make this cut. I'm just going to move this all down here. All right, and we're going to make the cut. Our first leg. Now, there are some shortcuts that some people take. I try not to do this because if I don't properly measure, something always goes wrong. There are people out there who will just say, oh, this is the perfect size leg. I'm just going to put it over top of the wood that I'm going to be cutting, and then I'll just measure it that way. I don't suggest doing that. It never works out for some reason. Never works out. So I'm going to set this aside. We're going to mark once more 18 inches. Mark above, mark below, do the same, mark above, mark below. Get your T-square. All right. And now we're going to make the cut. I'm going to flip it this way. This is extra. Putting it in the garage rafters. Okay, friends, we've got everything cut that we need cut for the structural end of things. There's one more cut and measurement that you're going to be doing, I'm going to show you how to make that kind of V effect here, okay? And I'm only going to show you how to do it on one of them. I'm not going to go through and do both of them, just for the sake of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera. Okay, everybody, now we're going to be taking care of the decorative kind of V shape that happens in here. So according to my plans, this is how it should work. What I would like to do first is, I know that each of these legs, I would like them to be 3 inches. So that's going to be the first thing that I measure. I'm going to take my tape measure here. And remember, guys, I mean, this is a rustic bench. It does not have to be exact. You know, close proximity, it'll still look good. So I'm going to measure 3 inches from this side. Okay? I'm going to measure 3 inches from this side. Okay? So these 2 spaces are going to be the legs. Okay, now we've got to find the center of this board so that we can figure out how to make the triangle nice and even. So I'm going to measure the whole length of the board. And like I said, the 3-inch legs was an arbitrary decision because the wood that I got was not the correct size. So if you guys know simple math, it shouldn't be a difficult thing at all. So 9 1/4 is the length or the width of this board. So 9 1/4, if we were to split that in half, 9 is 4.5 inches plus 1/4 would be 1/8. So we're looking at 4.5 inches plus 1/8 as our center. Okay? So we got 3 inches, 3 inches, and then this is 4.5 plus 1/8. Okay, let me just double check that, make sure that my measurements are good. All right. Now we have to measure the height. So the height of the legs, we decided we're going to be 4 inches according to my little plan. So I'm going to start on one side, measure 4 inches, mark the top, mark the bottom. Same thing. Mark the top, mark the bottom. And now it's just a matter of kind of completing the diagram. All right, I'm going to grab my T-square. First, I'm going to mark the 4 inches going up and down here. Okay, so now we know how high the legs are going to be, 4 inches. Now I'm going to measure the central point. Okay, that was the 9.5 inches plus 1/4. I'm going to bring that to the 4-inch line. So we're going to kind of create right angles. It's going to be perpendicular. Okay, so we have 4 inches this way, 4 inches here, and then we've split it in 2. Now all you have to do is connect the dots. And to do that, I'm just going to flip my T-square over, and I'm going to use the straight edge. I'm going to take the first 3-inch notch, okay, and I'm going to follow it to the halfway point, 4 inches above. Okay, so we're going to start from the bottom, line it up. There's one. Flip it over. Do the same thing. Line it up. There we go. I hope you guys can see this okay. So this region in here is going to go bye-bye. Okay? So then I'm going to do this with the other leg. I'm going to do the measurements and I'm going to get it all cut. And I'll show you what they look like after I'm done cutting them. All right, so here's our cut. Turned out pretty well. Now I used a circular saw to do that. Only because I don't have a jigsaw. I think a jigsaw might be a better option. The blade is much thinner, you have a lot more control. With the circular saw, well, it's circular, so therefore it's not going to quite easily join up into the angle, but whatever. Like I said, it's rustic. I honestly don't care. If it's functional and it fits within my environment, hey, that's all that matters. I'm going to make a couple more measurements. Now, the next step in this is I'm going to attach the 2x4 brace, okay, to the inside of the first leg. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that that brace is going to be nice and centralized. So I'm going to take my T-square and I'm actually going to measure from the bottom point straight up so that I can have a guidance line on kind of an approximation on where this is supposed to be going. So I'm going to grab my T-square. Oh, good grief. Wow. It was almost like it was meant for this. Look, the T-square goes right to the edge. Isn't that great? All right. Make sure your T-square is long enough. All right. Make my marking, so now you can see I've got this line going from top to bottom. So that's going to help me to guide where the 2x4 is going. I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. Okay, I'm going to find the middle of where the legs join. Give it a quick line. There we go. Okay, so where am I going to put the 2x4? Once again, you know, carpentry like this, a simple carpentry, is not something like a baking recipe where you have to, well, I really shouldn't use that analogy because I actually don't follow the recipe when it comes to baking perfectly, but you know, they say that's kind of an exact science. Carpentry can be an exact science. I'm not refuting that at least, but you know, when it comes to a small project like this, it doesn't have to be perfectly exact. So I'm going to pretty much use the very top of the legs as my guide. Okay, I'm going to try to put the 2x4, the bottom of the 2x4, right here at the top of the leg, and then it should go up 2 inches. Okay. I don't have any fancy equipment, clamps, and things like that. I've never used them before. I just kind of go for it. Works for me, right? Great. I got my cordless driller. I'm going to grab my deck screws. Now, there are some schools of thoughts when it comes to doing stuff like this that you should pre-drill your holes. This wood is pretty durable, it's pretty thick, so when it comes to wood like this, I'm not entirely preoccupied about having the wood split. And honestly, I mean, if it does split, it just kind of adds to that whole rustic flavor. I'm not concerned, okay? So I've got my marking running up on the top, and that way I can guide. That way I can actually see what's going on, okay? So I'm going to center this the best as I can. Let's get this lined up here. Okay. And I'm going to make my first drill hole. Here we go, moment of truth. Make sure this is lined up. Here we go. Okay. The plans call for more screws. I will get to that. I'm going to affix the other one first. Okay, so I have already affixed the second leg onto this bench to the cross brace here. What I did is I used a spirit level. Okay, this is an old one. This was my grandfather's. Okay, any kind of spirit level will work fine. And what I did is I just placed a spirit level on the cross brace, and I made sure that the bubble was perfectly in the middle. Okay, and doing that, I just moved this up, and I made sure that everything was level. And then I took my pencil and I marked the top of where the 2x4 joins, okay? Then I just grabbed and I gave it just one screw. So this is where I am with that. the last portion of this is the top brace. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I according to my plans, the bench kind of hangs over the legs about 4 inches on either side. Okay, so I'm going to grab my tape measure and I'm going to measure 4 inches on the first side, 4 inches on the second side, I'm going to grab my T-square, give it a good mark, do the same thing on the other side, give it a mark, and if my measurements are correct, these markings that I've just put on here should line up with the very outside edge of each leg. Fingers crossed. Let's see how I did. Oh, I love it! I just love when things just work out. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, we're good. Fabuloso. All right, gonna grab a deck screw. Do the top. Do the other side. Make sure that these are nice and flush. Okay. Look at that, my friends. There we have it. Simple bench. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish putting the rest of the screws in just to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. And then we are off to paint. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited right now, I can't even tell you. I did a little test run. I brought the bench out behind to the back walkway and whoo, perfect size. And even on the cobblestones, it's not all wobbly and wonky, so I'm really happy about that. It's very sturdy. Okay, now, I'm not gonna make you endure sitting through this whole video, but I just wanna show you as I'm applying the paint. Incidentally, I just wanna let you know that I did, in fact, put a couple more screws on each side on the top, and then a couple more screws on the sides, okay? So, it's really sturdy. Tough as old boots, as my UK friends would say. All right, and now we're going to take and apply our Ocean Storm paint. And I'm just gonna give you a little sneaky peek on how beautiful this color is. Okay, there we go. Oh, can you stand it? Beautiful. Look at that. Now this wood has been planed, so the edges aren't sharp and they aren't kind of rough. Everything is very smooth. I would suggest that if you're using reclaimed wood of any kind that has a little bit of roughness to it, before you get to the paint process, go ahead and give it a sand. Okay, you want the edges to be at least comfortable on your legs. Otherwise, you know, you might get yourself a couple of splinters. But oh, this is just gorgeous. I'm so excited, so incredibly excited. I'm gonna finish this leg, and then you guys can grab yourself a cup of tea, and I will show you what this is going to look like when it's all done and dried and in its final place of residence. Look at that. That's going to be beautiful. All right, go grab that tea. I think I'm going to as well. Would you just look at that? Oh my goodness. I am so happy right now, I can't even tell you. Look at that. Perfect. It fits perfectly. I'm not gonna have any problems opening my door. It's gonna fit me and one other person. It just, and I love how it pops with the blue and the white and the red flowers. Wow. I'm so happy. And believe it or not, on the cobblestones, it's really sturdy. It's not wobbling at all. So I am very, very pleased. It just turned out so well. So well. Oh, hip hip hooray. Oh boy. The sense of accomplishment I have right now. There's nothing like doing a project on your own, especially when it yields really good results. I'm so happy about it. I hope you guys consider giving it a try. Not a hard project, it really wasn't. So I thank you all so much for coming in and watching this. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and press the notification bell so that you can receive notifications. And if you liked the content on this channel, please check out the rest of the channel. I've got a couple of videos. I'll be building my library more and more as the days go, so come join us, you know? It'll be great. You can also find me on Facebook. If you go to the upper right-hand corner of my YouTube channel, you'll find a little link that says LEG Facebook page for Lake Effect Gardener, although it does say leg. It is the leg Facebook page. So if you have a problem with that link, you could always just go onto Facebook, www.facebook.com/The Lake Effect Gardener. All one word. Okay? So, yeah, that's really it for me. The Facebook page has other small little snippets, little blogs that I've already started as well. Nothing too substantial, but the first one is of this shed. I talked about the shed, and then the next one I had written was my first vintage post, and that was regarding, well, you go and take a look. I called it the cherry on top of my sundae. It's my favorite vintage item that I own. So, thanks so much for joining in, guys. I really hope to see you very, very soon. To my friends over in the UK, I really hope that you guys get some rain. If you haven't gotten any, I hope the heavens open up and give your precious little plants the drink that they deserve. So, until next time, thanks for stopping by, and I will see you next time with a new video. Bye-bye.